I'm John Twist of University Motors, and today, along with our differential video, I want to talk about half shafts. This is a half shaft, called an axle, but the axle is really the whole thing from wheel to wheel. This is called a half shaft. This is made up of two pieces. We've got the hub out here with either left or right hand splines. This has got left hand splines in it. You can see they go the opposite way on what a normal nut would be, because the spinners tighten in the opposite direction of wheel rotation. We've got the hub and we've got the half shaft here, which is pressed into the hub. And if we look right down here at the bottom, we can see the splines right down at the bottom where it enters the hub, right down here. And it takes one big friggin' press to press the half shafts out and the new half shafts in. Once the new half shafts are pressed in, then there's a freeze plug, which we probably can't see too well. I'm going to do the poor man's illumination here and see if maybe we can get a picture down inside there. You can see that there's a freeze plug, Welch plug, core plug, whatever you want to call it, down there at the end that prevents oil from wicking out between the half shaft and the hub. So this is one hub. This is also called a hub. So it can be confusing, right? This one holds the bearing and turns on the rear axle housing. Then this is mated up to this. Now I've taken the studs out of here because I want to surface that. We're going to go over, I'm just going to show you, we're just going to surface it so you can see that. This bearing is thinner than the depth that it goes inside here. So this guy sits down maybe that far under the surface. And that distance is made up by this little piece here that stands proud on the back of this hub. In a disc wheel car, this piece is a separate piece. So you must have this spacer. You must have this spacer either with the wire wheel hub, which it is here, or as a separate piece if it's a disc wheel. So I'm concerned that how many times does this half shaft come off of here since the car was new in 1966? Twice? Thrice? 18 times? Who knows? And a couple of those times somebody's used a great big friggin' screwdriver or a chisel and beat on it to make the half shaft pop off. Sometimes that nicks this hub. So now there's a paper gasket that goes between this and this to prevent the oil from spinning out. And if you've got a high spot on here, then it can't seal all the way. It can't seal all the way tight, and it may be left open just a little bit, and oil, lots of oil, will come out. We just got done cleaning up these drums, so I can't show you the brake drums. I can't show you how much oil was inside those brake drums, but these are and somebody wants technical advice. You can see on these brake drums, brake shoes rather, you see how the color changes out here at the edge. That is where oil has come up and got on the brake shoe. So actually, there, look at that. It's still shiny. Still shiny. And once you got oil on the brake shoe, guess what? The brake shoe doesn't act like it should anymore. So don't worry, I'll call that guy back, you know. Anyway, we're going to take this guy over to our belt sander and smooth him out. So here I am at the poor man's surface grinder. Little belt sander I bought. We're just going to take this and twirl him. You can see this spot right here, the silver spot. Someone's used a chisel at some point and hit that. So that's a high point. Starting to make it look nice. Starting to pick it up way out at the edges. Now we're getting almost all the way there. That's good enough. Good enough for who it's for. Just an MG. So anyway, we've got a nice even bit around the outside. So this is going to make really good contact with the half shaft. So we're going to go back, we're going to change the seal. So let me just explain again, this is still filthy dirty from being over on the sanding block. But this bearing sits inside here, and oil comes down the tube around which this bearing fits, comes down the tube, washes out from the end of that bearing, washes through this bearing and keeps it oiled, but what keeps it from leaking out onto the inside of the brakes is the seal, which is sitting on the inside of the hub. And the lip of the seal is facing away. So when you take a look at the seal from the inside, it's fitted like this. Not like this. That'll encourage oil leaking. It's fitted like this. Maybe it's counterintuitive, but this is the way it's supposed to go. If you think about it, it makes sense. So we got to get this seal out of here. That is a problem. So we're using a piece of wood so we don't damage what we just surfaced. You can make a case that we should have put the seal in first. But if we put the seal in first and then sanded it, we would have gotten all that to swarf, all those little bits up there. So I'm going to take my chisel here. This is the crude, difficult way that I've always done it. Maybe someone has a better way of doing it. If you do, let me know. Of course, we're trying not to put the chisel into my belly. Bingo, it's all clean. Now, we just have to clean this guy out. So let me spray a little bit of carb cleaner in here and get him all clean. Cleanliness is next to godliness, especially when working on engines or anything that's moving. Sand, grit is your enemy. Cannot sandblast anything that moves. You can take something that moves and take it apart, sandblast the individual pieces, but if it's moving as an assembly and you sandblast it, it will self-destruct. So we're going to take the new seal. Let's see how this one is. This one's still supple. This is still supple. You can see it. You can see it move here. It's still supple, but the new one's a whole lot nicer. We love grease, so we're going to put a quantity of Lucas grease. Again, great humor using a Lucas product for lubrication. And we're going to put him in place. Now we need something that's got the right diameter. Of course, I just had a socket here that I pulled out, so I would have it available. If I still had my shop, I'd have my special tool that self-centers and drives the seal in perfectly. As it is, I've got to use the largest diameter socket I've got, which is too small, and I've got to keep working him around and around and around the outside. Sort of a crude way of doing this, but it's effective. And I've wrecked my seal. No, I haven't. But I've popped the spring out of him. I certainly didn't mean to do that. So we're going to keep working around on the outside of him. When I bought these seals from Moss, I bought 3 of them in case I wrecked one. Not a bad idea. I have wrecked them before. Feels like he's good. So we take a look at the seal here, and we see that it is driven all the way home. It's all the way tight against the against its lip. So we're set here. I'm going to put the spring back in. Very odd to have that pop out. That just provides some tension on there. Now we're going to walk over to the car, and I'm just going to show you how this sits in there and why it works the way that it does. So when this hub goes on here, the seal rides against this area right in here. So he rides up here, and that bearing sits in the middle, so he's always twirling on here. Over a period of time, there is a groove that ends up getting cut into this part of the rear axle housing. And you can get rid of that. This is Scotch-Brite. You can clean this up. You can use sandpaper, doing like this, crocus cloth, something like that. If you can see a groove in here where the seal's been riding, if you can see the groove, if you can feel the groove with your fingernail, it is too deep, and you want to get a speedy sleeve from Chicago Rawhide, CR. I don't know what the diameter is. Moss probably has one in their catalog, but you can always get stuff like that from Granger. Granger has a great selection of speedy sleeves and bearings and so forth. Anyway, so here's this guy, but before we put this on, we're going to want to gob a bunch of grease on there and a bunch of grease in here, so that as we drive it on, it's got lubrication on the lip of the seal. We don't have to wait for the oil to rush down the tube when we go around the corner and have it lubricate that bearing. So let's go back to the bench and put the bearing in. You'll remember I dropped the bearing. Besides, the bearing gets dirty anyway. So I'm using this spray carburetor cleaner. This is the greatest stuff in the world, made by First Aid. Number 10, vandalism mark and stain remover. Okay, it used to be sold as carburetor cleaner, but because it's got toluene or methyl ethyl ketone or something in it, they can no longer sell it as carburetor cleaner because it's too dangerous for human use. So they renamed it, but it is just the greatest stuff. So here the bearing's running, it's nice and clean, it spins. We're going to clean the bearing out. Hey, it's lots of fun to put this on here and make the bearing spin really, really quickly, but it's really dangerous. The bearing isn't designed to run at 10,000 RPM. So we're going to put some oil in him, just some oil. Any oil is better than no oil. It is not necessary, not even suggested, that you should grease him. You can grease him, but if you grease him, then the oil that comes out of the axle tube can't get through him, can't get back to the seat. Now we're going to put the bearing in our clean hub, and again we're going to tap him. Now I have had some experience using a press. Why wouldn't you use a press? Press is cool. Put the press on here, presses it right down, This guy goes on an angle, gets stuck, and this part in here, which is really thin, ends up bending. So just driving the outer bearing, using a brass hammer, so there aren't any chips. You can see how this bearing is under the surface, and that's what that extra distance is for on the hub, to sandwich that bearing in there. So this guy's all set to go. We can put the studs back in him and get him hooked back up to the rear axle. This guy, we want to use some kind of surfacing, a file, something or other on here. Maybe I'll chuck him up in the lathe later and just put some paper on him and make sure he's smooth so there's no high spots. Because just as there could be, or were, like on this one, some high spots, there certainly can be high spots here. And we want both these surfaces to fit together. The gaskets that you get are almost always just great. Almost always. They're just wonderful and they fit just fine. But sometimes they've been sitting in a box or sitting on the wall for way too long and they shrink and curl up like your soft top does during the winter. So before you put him in, take him, get him wet. Just get him wet. Now he responds by expanding, going to full size. Got to blot him off, and then when you go to fit him, when it's back on the car, then you want to use something like Ultra Black or the right stuff on the gasket. I could make this video into about a 2-hour video about how to put the whole thing on, but I'm going to stop here. So we've learned how to put the seal in, the importance of the seal, the direction the seal goes in, surfacing it to make sure it's absolutely smooth, making sure the gasket expands enough. Cleanliness is next to godliness, and you shouldn't be working on your MG. It's springtime. It's a week before Memorial Day 2025. You ought to be out driving your car. So until we meet again, safety fast.